recently, talks have been on different platforms that Nigeria's economy has finally staged a comeback in terms of its recent improvement, yes, particularly in the economy. And the National Bureau of Statistics came up with a report that suggested this. The Senate also hailed the federal government with regards to this. Now, a lot of people have been celebrating over this, but what was the contribution of the Senate with regards to this before this eventually came to the fore? And how did the media intervene? I'm Eunice Johson. Welcome to the Media Review segment. My guest is the Special Advisor to the Senate President on Media and Publicity, Yusuf Olaniyan. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Now, basically, we're talking about the media and the role of the Senate in the state of the economy, and we're going to be focusing on out of recession, Nigeria being out of recession, and all of that. Now, before this report came out by the National Bureau of Statistics, there must have been deliberations by the Senate on the state of the economy. What formed the core part of these deliberations?
Well, you'll see that sometimes last year, shortly after the Minister of Finance declared, in the first instance, the Minister of Finance declared officially that Nigeria is in recession on the floor of the Senate. The Senate invited her to give an account of the state of the economy, having looked at some of the things happening in Nigeria, to individuals, even things happening in the finance sector, in the manufacturing sector, in the various sectors that can be used as variables for determining how well the economy is doing. Then the Senate invited her on the floor of the Senate to give an account of what is happening and to answer questions. And there and then she then declared that the country is technically in recession. So what that means is that the Senate is giving a lot of attention to the economy. That is why it is on its floor that the minister admitted and announced that the nation is in recession. And immediately after that session ended, the Senate president first went to Lagos and had a lot of meetings with people in the private sector. So this is a major problem. We want to make a major contribution as well. What should that contribution be? You are a major stakeholder in the economy. So there was a long session of meetings, several meetings really, with various sections of the private sector. And from that discussion, he was able to now do research, make more consultations. And a week after that, there was a special session on the economy that was aired live on TV, where he started by making his own recommendations. And then the recommendations were debated. Some of the things he recommended were rejected, some were accepted, and then other members also made recommendations. And at the end of the day, there was a 21-point plan or suggestions made to the president. The Senate formally sent those suggestions to the president on what we need to do to get out of the recession. And even among those suggestions were the roles of the Senate, the National Assembly as a whole, what the National Assembly would do. You know that in all this, while the executive is to formulate policies that will ensure that there is economic prosperity in this country, it is also the function of the legislature to first make laws to back up those policies, again, do oversight on how those laws are being implemented and how even the policies are being implemented. And again, it's also the role of the National Assembly to also do advocacy, some advocacy campaigns. Exactly. For example, if there are some bodies that feel that certain policies are not going on well, they will consult. They will listen to them and then push the ideas to the executive. Sometimes there may also be certain policies that are not being implemented by the executive, which the stakeholders in that sector feel that if you adopt it, it will help. It's part of the advocacy function of the National Assembly to also take on that and then listen to them and convey those ideas to the executive. All those things were done, and you see that since then, the National Assembly has played its own part by focusing on the laws that they think will help Nigeria to get out of recession. One of them is the National Assembly looked at it that, for example, is the country is was at one time becoming very difficult for private investors, either here or those of them who are coming from abroad to invest in. You look at the life situation, the security situation, the even the process of setting up a company, or even arbitration when there is dispute between partners in a company, and they look at all those things, and in their own way, they said, there are so many incentives for the private sector to invest in the economy, and without the private sector investing in the economy can't grow. You can't get out of recession. So they now set up a panel, a body. The acronym they use for it is NASBA, that is National Assembly Business Environment Roundtable. The body consisted of people from the private sector, from the Nigerian Economic Summit, from the universities, from the professions. The MBA, played, and that's the Nigerian Bar Association, played a major role. It was headed by Professor Idonije. Professor Idonije is a don from the University, I think University of Ibadan also.
Very quickly, because of time, but you see, you mentioned all of these things, and it's almost, it's amazing to see that the Senate went this far in trying to contribute in their own way to the development and to these results that we are seeing. Was it that the media wasn't carried along in all of this? Because we barely heard about some of these things you're mentioning. No,
there is nothing that the National Assembly does, particularly the Senate. There is nothing that we do without the media being part of it from inception. From the time the idea was conceived and floated and discussed. At every point in time, they are informed, they are briefed about discussions. These discussions are usually open. They are invited into it. Even the roundtable, which is a consistent thing, they were allowed to cover it. The reports were publicly presented and all those things. But you see, we have a problem with. When I say we, I'm not talking of the National Assembly. There's a general problem with our media. The focus is on sensationalism. You see that a major economic policy will be buried if on the same day that is unfolded, there's even just a mere exchange of words between two prominent individuals. Two prominent individuals. Let's say two senators, two ministers. That's the thing that will make the major news. Major economic policies that will affect the lives of Nigerians, the lives of journalists themselves, will not
are ignored.
Yeah, exactly. They don't get that prominence. They are published. They are there, but they are just talked on to one side. Exactly. Yes.
Now, still, you mentioned one of the meetings that was held last year. One was on September 22nd last year, and they deliberated on so many things. One of the issues deliberated upon was the abuse of capital mobilization, contract mobilization fee, which results in the abandoning of some capital projects, and then which also results in the diminishing state of different states across the Federation. What did the media do to bring this to the fore so that maybe it could have been or not be the role of the media that made people aware of these things to be able to cover it? What role did the media play in this?
As I said earlier, it needs for even the media to realize first that without a strong economy, the media itself is nowhere, will be nowhere to be found. They rely on adverts from those private sector, from the manufacturers. They rely on adverts from government. Government rely on taxes from the private sector. So if the economy is not doing well, everybody is sick. Government, private sectors, private individuals, the newspapers, the TV, everybody is sick. It needs for our media, or particularly either the owners, the gatekeepers, as the editors, and then the field men, to realize that without a strong economy, nothing can happen. And therefore, in the priority of what should be given prominence, either on TV or on radio, economic issues should come first. But we play politics. Politics come first. Before economy. Even economy, some social issues will even come second.
Before
talk of the economy. And therefore, in fact, a lot of people in the media really do not even have the understanding of how the economy functions or what is important.
Because of their concentration
on politics and on
Okay, now speaking of what should be given prominence, just as you rightly mentioned, aside agriculture and some of the things that the media has been hammering on recently, aside that, what are those key areas? You could just mention them in bullet points that you feel that the media should focus on.
Number one, you have mentioned agric, which is very important. you know, even oil, despite the fact that we are leaving oil, is still the major source of income for this country, and any issue burden on oil should still be focused on, because if you generate more money from oil, then you can now invest that money in agric and in other sector. The mining sector is very important. It's the future of this country, because oil is going. We have to start focusing on agric, on mining, on tourism.
Wow.
The mining sector is very important now. Apart from agric, that's one area where we can make so much money now. There is also the tourism sector, I mean, that we need to explore and exploit. We also need to start looking about other aspects of tourism. That's like education tourism. Let's rebuild our education such that the way it was in the past, when University of Ibadan, for example, almost like, was like a hub, for education in the entire West Africa. We need to, to start doing that again, so that instead of our people sending dollars and spending dollars in Ghana,
we have
all those places. We have Then we can also do the same thing with health. I mean, there are no good hospitals there where you can say people from all over West Africa are coming.
So now all of this and many more rest on the media to take up the mantle and start to look into the areas that are necessary.
Exactly.
Well,
focus on them, and then let the investors know that opportunities are there.
Opportunities are there. It's been wonderful speaking with you, and I actually grabbed a few things from some of the things that you just mentioned. Thank you very much for coming. Yes, my guest has been Yusuf Olaniyono. He is the Special Advisor to the Senate President on Media and Publicity. And we've been talking about the media and the role of the Senate in the state of the economy, and with particular focus on the country being out of recession. That's it for the Media Review segment. Thank you very much for being part of this segment.
Yes, our song, it's time to go.
Yes, it's time to go. And we hope that, as they say, Nigeria is out of recession. We pray that we would stay out of recession and not crawl back to the previous state. That's it for today's episode of Insight. Thank you very much for being part of the program. I'm Eunice Johson.
Have you ever bothered to know that whatever you do, you should do it well? Passion can push you to do it well. Always remember that whatever you find yourself doing now, just do it well. Somebody somewhere is watching. On behalf of all of us, thanks for being on the program. Bye-bye.